Hi everyone, I'm Heather Nguyen, a retired nurse practitioner and the founder and practitioner at Arizona Healing Alternatives. On this channel you'll find several videos. Some will be shorter and some will be longer, what I like to call aha moments, where we're going to be discussing issues that impact your health. So whether you decide to use Western medicine, alternative medicine, or even a mix of both, I'm passionate about you knowing what your options are. In this aha moment, we're going to be talking about, especially with COVID-19, that stress. Now, I've talked about it in some other videos. However, on this one, I want to give you some real practical tips, things that are easy to do at home, that you can do, that don't take a lot of time. And some of them will be some breathing techniques. Some other things will be kind of some guided visualization techniques, and then some real physical techniques that you can do to decrease your stress. And it's not the usual ones you've been thinking of. So stay tuned. So today's aha moment, we're talking about stress. Why is it so important to talk about stress? Well, I don't know about you, but especially with this COVID-19, what does your new normal look like? I know everyone's getting tired of hearing that word, but it's really true. Some of us, if we hear that word one more time, our heads might do what's on that picture. But it's so true. Our lives will most likely never really get back to what we knew before this COVID-19, which is why it's so important to talk about that word stress today. So incredibly important. How do people handle that stress? What do they do to handle that stress? Well, I don't know about you, I tend to go in the desserts category, but what I've seen a lot in my practice is I've seen people eating tons of sugar. What are people talking about? The COVID-15 or whatever it is. People are eating a ton of stuff. People are also using drugs, using alcohol, using other substances to help. Now, does that mean you can't have a glass of wine with dinner? No. What it means is if you ever think about when you first had your first cup of coffee, when you had your first cup of coffee and your body wasn't used to caffeine, you were up and wired and for a while. But then your body builds a tolerance to it. And when your body builds a tolerance to it, then you need more and more cups of coffee or caffeine before you get the same effect. The same thing happens with a lot of drugs or alcohol. And what people are doing, and even with food, right? Because our stomach stretches out when we eat a lot of food, so it needs more and more before it feels full oftentimes. So what happens is a lot of people are trying to cope, and the way they're coping is by turning to these things and doing more and more and more of them, which eventually can lead to a lot of other problems, right? So what are you going to do when that stress is over and your body still wants more and more of these things? What's the physiology of that stress? What happens to our bodies under stress? Let's take a look at that. If you take a look at your body, what happens when we have to deal with stress? You look at the various different areas, but the area that I want you to really, really focus on is that immune system. That's why so many people these days are talking about stress and stress reduction. Because when you're under stress, which most of our lives were stressful even before COVID, if then all of a sudden something like this hits that changes anything we consider normal, what's going to happen is you're going to have that response that decreases the immune system, which makes you more susceptible to getting things like COVID. So that's why so many of us are focused on that. So let's take a look at that a little further on this next slide. On the next slide, you can see that in addition to all the different physiology of that, you can see how the mind, the body, the emotions, how they all work together and what happens under stress. So you can take a look at that and you can see the breakdowns in communication. As far as communication goes, I did another video series about that in ways to try to decrease stress in communicating. So you can guys check that out. But it's really important to look at all of those different avenues and what they do. So communication is one thing, but what about what else it does in the body? All right. So if we look at that in my practice, and what I do is apply kinesiology or total body modification. For those of you that wanted more information on that and more information about everything with that, you can either see this video, which is the energy medicine or woo-woo video. You can take a look at that one, or you can also take a look at a few of these little stress relieving techniques that I've done and what TBM is about. You can look at some other videos on the channel. I don't want to focus on that right now. What I want to do is show you a little piece of that. Little piece of that is in Chinese medicine, every organ has an emotion that's associated with it. And so when you look at those little pulse points, you can see, like obviously in Western medicine, we have, fast or slow, but those little different areas correspond to different organs that correlate with each other. So if you take a look at this chart, this shows a little bit more in depth as to what different emotions and organs. So if you go down on that chart, you can take a look at the adrenal section. What happens when our adrenal glands are under stress? If we look at that section, adrenal glands, what happens to our thinking? Clouded thinking, muddled thinking, up and down emotionally, can't figure it out. Those are the emotions of the adrenal glands. So why is that? Well, the adrenal glands itself, their job is to secrete what's called adrenaline. Adrenaline we need when we are, let's say, in the woods and there's a bear. Well, what are you going to do? The adrenaline kicks in. Adrenaline puts more oxygen into the muscles so that you can either run away from the bear or you can stay and fight the bear. Either way, that's called fight or flight. So then if you look at some of those emotions, you can imagine what people are going through right now with all the adrenal glands going out and all of these things. And what I mean by going out is in the medicine that I use in applied kinesiology. It doesn't mean your adrenal glands are failing. What that means is that there's so much stress. So what can we do? Okay, one of the other techniques you can do is this emotional overwhelm technique. You can do that, which I've covered in another video, which you can take a look at. But also what I want us to focus on is I'm going to put up this picture and this slide. I want you to see there's also something very easy you can do at home. From the world of chiropractic care, there's this thing called Category 4 blocking, and this came straight from the Total Body Modification or TBM website. And what you can do is you notice those pelvic bones. So if you see that picture, that's the backside of somebody. If you see that picture, you're noticing that those pelvic bones are even, okay? Well, so on most people, the pelvic bones are different. Take a look at mine right now, right? I've been working for a bit this morning. So that being the case, since I'm doing something active, you'll notice that this side is higher and closer to my head than this side, which is closer to my feet. When you have that, adrenaline is being secreted. I'm making a video, I'm working. So of course adrenaline is secreted, that's normal. But what we want to be able to do is to calm that down. You can do this with a pair of shoes at home, so easy to do. I know it says on the picture that, it's done at 5:30 or 6 o'clock at night, but you can do it anytime. Best thing to do is to lay down flat and have somebody look at you from above and see which is higher. I mean, right now I'm standing up, you can see it, so sometimes in the mirror you can see it. But if you lay on the floor, which is where you need to be on a hard surface to do this anyway, and you try to lift your head up, what can sometimes happen is you can't see it very well. So if there's someone else around the house, great. If not, you can look in the mirror. So for me, this one's higher. Well, what does that even mean? If that one's higher, it means that if there's this imbalance in these theories, that the thing that sits above those pelvic bones are our kidneys, and above that are our adrenal glands. So if there's too much pressure in one area and not enough pressure in another, it stimulates those adrenal glands to keep kicking out that adrenaline. So if we even it out like it shows in the picture, then it turns off that system and helps the body calm down and de-stress. So what we would do very easily at home, you'd see which side, and then I'm going to use, this is what I use in the office, but like I said, a pair of shoes turned upside down can do the same thing. What you'll do, since that bone is here, is on the back side. That's why the picture showed the back side. On the back side, you push this down like this. You just put it underneath you at a diagonal. And then the other side, like it shows in the picture, will go where we consider the sit bone, right underneath where the rear end is. And what you're going to do is point that the opposite direction. So it's going to look like this one's pushing down, this one is pushing up. It makes this nice diagonal, one way or the other, depending on which way that is that hip is pointing. So when you have that, then you just lay on it. This one's down like this one's like this underneath me, and you're just going to lay on it. And when you lay on it, when you're done, what will happen is those bones will even out and someone can check you. And that is a fast and easy way for a lot of my patients who end up with insomnia and other problems. I teach them how to do this at home. If you're up anyway, you might as well do that to turn off that fight or flight, because once the fight or flight gets going, you can't sleep. It's the fastest way to take a power nap, and it's an amazing technique to do. So I recommend you guys play with that and try that. The other thing is breathing in general. If we think about breathing, a lot of people are chest breathers, especially women. And if you're breathing from the chest like this, you can tend to hyperventilate, a lot more anxiety, a lot of other problems with that. So the best way to breathe, we have this muscle down here called the diaphragm, which pulls down and opens up our rib cage so that you can expand your lungs completely and get enough oxygen. So we want to kind of focus even lower than that, at lower abdominal breathing. You can put your hands right here underneath, belly button here, underneath that area, and just push those hands out when you take a breath in. And then, and obviously I'm exaggerating this because my hands aren't on my body, but basically then breathe out, in, and breathe out. And you can see from that slide, just 60 seconds of paying attention to this can calm the nervous system down. So really important. You can even do that emotional technique with it to calm the nervous system once you get good at focusing on breathing from down here. So those are things that you can do. The other thing that comes from the world of hypnosis even, what you can do is shut your eyes. You can even do that right now. Focus on that breathing for 1 minute. And then what I want you to do is I want you to think about a time, a place, anything that makes you feel really comfortable. It could be a time when you felt really good and your body felt really good, or it could just be a place where you love the ocean or you love the woods. Anywhere where you feel comfortable and relaxed and peaceful and really good, I want you just to close your eyes. These techniques don't have to take long. Just close your eyes, think about that wonderful place or that wonderful space, and just stay in that for a few minutes. And once you have that, and that place can change from day to day, but once you have that really solidified in your mind, then what you can do with it is you can start thinking about the world that you want, the world that you want to see, whether it goes back to before COVID, whatever that is. I want you to imagine that. Well, why even do that? Because you're telling your brain the space it wants to live in. Why is that important? It's important because if you believe in the power of prayer, if you believe in meditation, all of those different things, what happens is when you get your brain in that space, it tends to calm it down and you can see things differently. Because especially today in the world, there's a lot of stress, a lot of anger, a lot of people fighting and polarizing about different things. The most important thing is to stay calm and be able to hear people's opinions. I mean, that's why we live where we do in this beautiful country where we have opinions. We can speak our mind, and it's really important to get in a better space. So once you've done that, you can add in this or even definitely do the lower abdominal breathing with that. But once you have that, then you can open your eyes. And once you've created this wonderful space and how great it feels, at any time during the day, you could be walking down the street, you could be doing your work day, you can close your eyes for a minute, focus on that breathing, and instantly just transport yourself to that place. Some people are not very good at visualizing. That's okay. Just feel what it felt like. Some people feel things more than they see things. Anything like that is totally fine. Just a space where your body feels comfortable, happy, and relaxed. Really important. So why is any of this important? From either doing, this technique, focusing on the breathing, doing that little blocking, what's called pelvic blocking technique. Why are those important? To decrease that stress so you can stay healthy. It's also important, I want to show, to finish this for you, I want to show you some different phrases and different things to think about, because what we know is if we change how we perceive the world, if we change our perception to the world, we change ourselves. When we change ourselves, we automatically, when you're kind to another person, it gets passed on. It's the same thing. So if you change your perception and you change your mind, you really can change the world. And even when bad things happen, everything is how we look at it, okay? Yes, there's some very serious things that are going on, but we need to look at that and we need to recognize, yes, there are some very devastating things happening. At the same time, some really positive things can come out of this. So we can look at it as negative, or we can look at it as an opportunity for change. I hope this information has been helpful to you today. If you like what you've seen, please feel free to hit that subscribe button. You can also hit that notification bell, and anytime new videos come out, you'll be notified. Not only that, but please feel free to leave any comments, any questions that you have. I'll be happy to answer that. So please try out these techniques, see what works, see what doesn't, and please, I know everyone says stay safe, but it's really true. Stay safe, stay healthy, de-stress. Have a good day.